You must love podcasts if you're listening to this. Do you want to start your own one or you already have one? Then follow Smarter Podcasting to get expert advice from me, Niall Mackay, the podcast guy. Since 2019, we've worked with over 40 podcasters, produced over 700 episodes, and helped many podcasts get to the top of the Apple Podcast charts. And right now, I'm offering you a professional edit for just $27. Click the link in the show notes.
Hột gà nước, hột vịt lộn, hột vịt sữa, trứng cút lộn, bất xào đây.
Hey, it's Neil here, the host of a Vietnam podcast, and thank you very much for tuning in. This is one of our PodSwap episodes, so if you haven't already, go check out the Vietnam is Awesome podcast, which I host and produce in connection with vietnamisawesome.com. And they help you find different tools and activities to do in Vietnam. This is an episode with Mihai Constantinescu that I recently did for Vietnam is Awesome, and he has the YouTube channel called Vietnam Riders. He is passionate about riding motorbikes around Vietnam and has some amazing stories to share, and also some good tips if you also want to ride a motorbike around Vietnam, not just in the big cities, if you want to go out and explore. So check it out and enjoy it. Don't forget, follow and subscribe this channel and the Vietnam is Awesome channel as well. And thank you very much for listening. Cheers. So what got you into riding motorbikes in Vietnam?
A feeling of freedom. You can stop wherever you like. You can't really do the same thing if you book a tour. Even if you go by a car, they cannot go on every single road. You can't really go dirt road. Bike is unique. You discover everything you want by bike. When you get to the countryside or to small towns, there's total shock. Some of them even go like, wow, you speak Vietnamese, can I take a selfie with you or something?
This is the Vietnam is Awesome podcast, and I'm your host, Niall Mackay. Thank you for tuning in to another episode. I've been living in Vietnam now for 8 years. I just had my anniversary this week. I came initially for a holiday, absolutely fell in love with the place, and then decided to stay. I started my own podcast in 2019 called the Vietnam Podcast, and I'm now also the host of the Vietnam is Awesome podcast. This show is going to share with you awesome experiences about Vietnam. Make sure you go to the Vietnam is Awesome website to find out more about tours and experiences that you can find all over Vietnam. So my guest today has been in Vietnam for twice as long as me. He's been here for 16 years and puts most other expats to shame because he's fluent in Vietnamese. He has his own YouTube channel called The Vietnam Rider, and he is passionate about bikes in Vietnam and traffic safety as well, which you might be wondering, wait, there's traffic safety in Vietnam? No, trust me, there is. So in this episode, we're going to explore more about riding your motorbike in Vietnam, which is one of the most amazing things to do, whether you're just going down the road to the Circle K or you're going to travel over the Hai Van Pass. So I'm excited to introduce my guest today is Mihai Constantinescu.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. I'm really, really excited to talk about motorbikes. I think it's something that it is synonymous. It is synonymous with Vietnam is motorbikes. So my company is actually called 7 Million Bikes, and I have this conversation with people all the time. Can you have any guess why it's called 7 Million Bikes?
I actually wanted to ask you.
It's one of those, people love to ask that question. So when I started my first podcast in 2019, I was doing the dishes and I was thinking, right, I'm going to start a podcast. What will I call it? And I just read an article in the VN Express that there was 7.4 million motorbikes in Saigon for only 9 million people. So I was just like, oh, that's a funny, quirky name. 7 Million Bikes, a Saigon podcast. Then it grew to a Vietnam podcast, and now the business is called 7 Million Bikes. So even last night I was talking to people and they were like, why is it called 7 Million Bikes? And the other question I always got was, well, what are you going to do when there's 8 million bikes? Are you going to change the name? And I was like, no, I'm not going to change the name. And I think we've surpassed that. And Vietnam itself has 45 million registered motorbikes for only 90 million people. That includes children and old people. So it's something that when people come here, they obviously see the traffic, they talk about it. I used to be a comedian and we do plenty of jokes about the traffic and just the motorbike culture in Vietnam. So what got you into riding motorbikes in Vietnam?
Well, that's pretty easy to answer. A feeling of freedom, the fact that you can travel and you're not inside like in a car or on a bus, right? So the wind is in your face and you're basically outside, but you're moving. So those two can only be achieved on the bike, I guess.
And you're from Romania originally. Had you ridden motorbikes before?
Never. The first day I got here, or maybe the first week, I started to learn.
As soon as you got here?
Yep.
So when I arrived in Vietnam, I swore blind that I would never ride a motorbike. I was like, I'm never doing it. I was like, we'll just get taxis everywhere. This is too crazy. It's too dangerous. I'm never getting on a bike. It took 3 months though to actually, so first 3 months, mostly taxis. And then eventually I was like, I need to get a bike.
Yeah, I was a bit worried, but not too much. Anyway, I have the spirit of adventure has always been in me. So like I knew I would go on a bike, get on the bike eventually.
And where was your first trip on the bike?
My first trip, so outside the city, was quite late. I mean, I came here in 2008, and the first trip I think was in 2010, right? I went to Tam Dao in Vinh Phuc province. So I used to live in Hanoi. So it's about 80 kilometers from Hanoi. Yeah, it was now I call it a joke of a trip. That's 80 kilometers. Now to me it's nothing. But then it was like, wow, man, that was a long one.
And what was it about that trip that inspired you to keep going?
Right. Well, you can't know if you like or dislike something until you try it. I tried it, loved it, and I knew that was for me. That's it.
And did you have any disasters or anything like that?
On any of my trips?
No, the first trip.
The first trip was nothing unusual. It was very nice because we were a group of friends and we were supposed to go together, but they had a quite big party the night before, and I didn't, so I just left. And they were like, "Okay, we'll meet you there in the afternoon." I left in the morning, so it was a bit spooky. I mean, it was a feeling of wow, I'm on my own now, and there were no smartphones, no Google Maps. I had to use my Vietnamese, which was pretty good by then, but still. You're on the highway and you ask random people, how do I get to Tam Dao? They will tell you, but you might also end up somewhere else, right? So it was a lot of adventuring. It was nice. And eventually I got there on my own and I felt proud and happy and good. And I think I opened the beer.
Nice. Well, that's what you got to do in Vietnam for sure. When you speak Vietnamese to people, you mentioned there, so my Vietnamese is so limited. I know a very, very small amount. But what I find very funny is the few times when I do try and use it and I'll ask a question, I don't know why I bother, because I don't understand what they say back to me. And sometimes I will use, this happened a few weeks ago, I ordered a coffee and then he just started talking to me in Vietnamese and I was like, oh my God, this guy thinks I speak Vietnamese because I could say one thing and I feel bad. How was your receptive skills after you'd learned the language?
Right, so it's a bit difficult to remember, but I think I went, at the beginning I went through the same situations that you're mentioning, basically, trying my Vietnamese would give them a signal that, this guy speaks Vietnamese. So they would then throw at you like so many words that you don't know. But for me, it was actually useful. I wanted that because I wanted to learn, right? I was a student. So, it was a difficulty that I had to overcome. And how did I feel? I think it was just having a good time. I'm a sociable person. I'm talkative. So, I tried to learn from them and that was it. I don't remember it as being too difficult. I don't know, maybe I'm musical or something. And I had good training, 1 year of Vietnamese at a university. So I guess it was a bit easier for me than it is or was for you.
And what is the general reaction when somebody hears you speak Vietnamese so well?
Oh, shock, always. Yeah. So before in Hanoi and now in Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, people might be a bit more used to foreigners speaking Vietnamese just because they meet more foreigners and mathematically some of them speak Vietnamese, so they interact a bit more with Vietnamese speakers, with foreign Vietnamese speakers. But when you get to the countryside or to small towns, there's total shock. Some of them even, they go like, wow, you speak Vietnamese, can I take a selfie with you or something? And of course we do that, but sometimes it freaks me out to be like, okay, it's a language, we can learn languages, but I understand them.
There's so few of us that actually speak it. I mean, I've got so many excuses for not speaking Vietnamese. Obviously, it's really difficult. The biggest one is I just never realized I would be here for this long. So my wife and I came here for literally 6 weeks. And then it turned into 3 months, and then 3 months turned into a year, and then a year turned into 2, and then 4, and still don't know how long we'll be here for. So that's all excuses, though I will admit it is all excuses. So what got you really passionate then about riding motorbikes in Vietnam?
So after that first trip to Tam Dao, I did a few other trips to Hoa Binh, to Mai Châu, to Hai Phong, to Cat Ba Island. Every time I did a new trip, I would realize that I like it more and more, and that I would like to add a few kilometers to the next trip. Like I wouldn't get tired or fed up with it, tired physically and mentally either. So, yeah, I like the feeling of freedom, that you can stop wherever you like. You can't really do the same thing if you book a tour. Even if you go by car, cars cannot go in Vietnam. They cannot go on every single road, right? You can't really go dirt road, or it depends. So, yeah, there's I think the bike is unique, right? You discover everything you want by bike. It's easier.
I mean, even I'd mostly just do city driving, but I just much prefer the bike as well. Like, the wind in your hair, not that I have much hair, but just that having that feeling of being outside, right? And I mean, I love just being on the bike in the city, being able to nip between cars and get right to the front of the lights every time. I've driven outside the city a couple of times, and I do like it as well. It is something that Vietnam is very famous for. There are people that come here specifically to do bike trips. I guess the biggest one is going from Ho Chi Minh to Hanoi or vice versa. Have you done that trip before?
Only 3 times.
Only 3 times. So how long? So is it 1,500 kilometers? 1,900?
It's 1,900 on the inland road, the Ho Chi Minh Road, and it's, I think, about between 16 and 1,700 on National Highway 1A, which I do not recommend, with a few exceptions, because of it's less scenic, is way more dangerous, and so on. So I would say if you're doing zigzag, it's about 2,000 kilometers, because I would do zigzag because I want to see the coast and then I want to see mountains. So yeah, about 2,000, but you can do it in less kilometers.
But why would you want to do? Yeah, I mean, imagine coming all the way to Vietnam and then just driving on the highway all the way.
Yeah, I think many people, and I want to share a few more videos about that. I think many foreigners still take people, maybe expats would take the Ho Chi Minh Highway, but I think many tourists would take the dangerous one and the less scenic one. So I think it's a bit of a shame, right?
So talk me through then, a tourist coming to Vietnam, or not even a tourist, somebody who already lives here. They want to drive by bike from, let's just say, Ho Chi Minh to Hanoi. Talk us through that trip. Where should you go? What should you see? What should you be aware of? And we talked about maybe having some disasters. What should they prepare for disaster? How should they prepare for that?
Okay, so there are many things to talk about here. First, the route first, right? I would definitely do a zigzag, so I wouldn't just stay on the Ho Chi Minh Highway. I wouldn't just stay on the National Highway 1A. Again, the inland road called the Ho Chi Minh Highway goes closer to the border with Cambodia and Laos, and it's very scenic. It's like the Vietnamese countryside. You go through the Central Highlands, and then in the north you go through the provinces with Phong Nha, Quang Binh, right, and others. It's very, very scenic. But so if you just want mountains, just stay on that road. It's safer, it's nicer. You see simple people, simple houses, not much infrastructure, right? And the other one, I definitely do not recommend to just stay on it, the Highway 1A, which is a bit closer. It's way closer to the coast. It's the major route for trucks, for buses, for everything. You find many places to eat and to stay and help with your bike if you have a problem, but it's more dangerous and less scenic, right? Why I'm saying a zigzag? Because if I want to do, for example, this stretch of 200 or 300 kilometers that I normally do a day, if I just want to get somewhere, I would stay on the Ho Chi Minh Highway and enjoy it. But if I want to go to a place on the coast, of course, I would just shoot out to the coast and take Highway 1A. For example, I think it's a must. I don't think it is a must to do the Haivan Pass. I bet you know it. And that's the old Highway 1A. So you don't want to be on the Ho Chi Minh Highway when you go around that area. You want to be by the coast and so on. I would take 70% of the road, of the route from Hanoi to Saigon, or the other way around, on the Ho Chi Minh Highway, and 30% on Highway 1A. Now, preparations. I don't know, choose your time wisely. Raining is a thing in Vietnam, right? Tropical.
Well, even you talked about the Hai Van Pass, which I saw your video on that just this morning, and it is one of the most amazing routes in Vietnam. I had friends do that before a few years ago, and when they were going up the hill, beautiful weather, shorts and t-shirt, they didn't prepare for the change in weather at all, because they were just doing a day trip from Da Nang, I think. They weren't doing like a whole route. And by the time they got to the top or on their way back down, I can't remember exactly, but pouring with rain, freezing cold, sideways wind, and they're both just in like little shorts and t-shirt on like a little rented bike. So even if you're going for like a short trip, you need to prepare, right?
Right, yeah. And the Haivan Pass is known, like I explained in my video, it's like right on the let's say the imaginary climate border between north and south, right? So probably your friends went from south to north, and from Da Nang until to the peak of the pass was fine, and then you get to the other climate, and you're going towards Hue, towards the north, and can be very different. Yeah, always be ready. I mean, you're in a tropical country, you need gear for rain, and that's it. And I don't think it's a lot. It doesn't take much space, and it's like about 1 kilo or maximum 2 kilos if you're fully equipped for rain. Yeah, be ready for that. Maybe get some spare parts. If you take the Ho Chi Minh Highway, you won't meet so many people to help you with the bike. So maybe get some spare parts, especially if you don't have a very common model of bike, like which I do. So I take a clutch wire with me because it might snap. I take a spark plug. Or
That's funny you mentioned that, because AJ Miller, who you're probably not watching, but she has an amazing story where her clutch wire snapped. Oh no, it was her accelerator wire snapped, and they couldn't get it fixed, and she had to drive all the way back, I think, from Cambodia with the accelerator wire attached to like a twig, basically. And instead of using the accelerator, she had to like pull the accelerator with like a twig, basically. Like really be creative on how to solve that problem.
Yeah, but that's, I mean, it's nasty, right? Nobody wants that. It's gonna be a fun memory later, a funny memory, but not then. Yeah. So yeah, get ready for that. And then if you're going around Tet, most of my long trips have been around Tet, but now I'm gonna change to the summer because of what I'm gonna say. And well, the weather is more unstable then, at least in the north. And in the north it's unstable. In here, in the south, it's fine, it's dry. But anyway, if you're going around Tet, you might not find gas, you might not find food or help. So you need to be careful if you're going solo and you're a tourist here, or even an expat, but if you don't speak any Vietnamese, it might be difficult.
I wanted to share with you about one of my favorite affiliate partners, and that is Fiverr. I've been using Fiverr for years for everything from ordering YouTube thumbnails to keyword research, writing podcast articles, even to Canva designs and thumbnails and more. So whether you're a budding entrepreneur, a podcaster, or anyone in between, Fiverr has got you covered. It really is the go-to platform if you want to find freelancers offering a massive range of services to help you on any project. Maybe you need a stunning new logo or just a short animation. Whatever you need, you can find it on Fiverr. What I love the most is how easy Fiverr makes it to connect with talented freelancers from around the world, all at prices that will fit whatever your budget is. Plus, with Fiverr's secure payment system, you can trust that your transactions are safe and secure. No dodgy people you meet on Facebook groups that disappear with your money and never give you what you want. What, that's only happened to me? As an affiliate partner, I will get a small commission if you use the link and at no extra cost to you. As an affiliate partner, I will get a small commission if you click my link and you buy something, all at no extra cost to you. And best of all, you will be directly supporting the making of this podcast that you're listening to for free, but it is not free to make. So while we head over to somewhere that you've probably never been before, it's called the show notes. So whatever app you're listening in, if it's Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anything at all, head to the show notes, click on my special link, and then you can browse thousands of gigs ready to help you with your next project. So if you're from overseas and you've never been to Vietnam before, and you might be wondering what is Tet, so explain just very briefly what is Tet if somebody doesn't know, and why is that dangerous, not dangerous, but why is that an awkward time to travel?
Right, sorry, I've lived in Vietnam for too long. I just say Tet and that's it. So the Lunar New Year, the Vietnamese New Year based on the lunar calendar, is their real New Year. It's the solar New Year, or the international one, is not so important here, right? So, but it's also a good time to travel because Vietnamese people are usually partying together and they don't commute so much except the first few days before it, and you have like a week or 10 days off, so it's easy, it's convenient because you don't have to work then, and the roads are emptier.
But why is that a problem? You're mentioning like getting gas or parts or anything like that?
Right, so for me, living here, and I call Vietnam home and speaking the language, I don't think it's an issue. So the roads are emptier, which is nice because it's all yours. And the other problem with finding gas or fixing, I never worry anymore. It's just, eventually I will find some random person who will help me because he knows a mechanic 3 kilometers away in the other village. It's fine. But
I hear so many stories of this. People will go out of their way to help you 3 kilometers down the road. But the point I'm trying to make there is, so during Tet, everything closes because it's a major holiday. So the roads are empty, but all the shops, the gas stations might be closed. So if you are coming to Vietnam during that time, Tet, make sure you look it up because it changes every year as well, because it is literally based on the lunar calendar. It's roughly the same time, like anywhere from late January to the beginning of February, but it changes every year. So make sure if you're planning a trip to Vietnam, look up when is Tet, no matter what you're doing, to be honest, not just for motorbiking, but if you are planning on a motorbike trip, be prepared. You might be driving along going, wow, there's no cars, where is everybody? And then you go to get gas and there's no gas either. So you do have to prepare for that as well.
Yeah, I would like to add, there's also in some areas, at least I'm sure in the north, because I've done it 3 times and I've been in that situation, that I think it's a kind of a superstition not to sell anything on the first day of Tet, of that holiday, right? So it means that's why the gas stations might be closed, but some of them open because they're like businesses. But sometimes you might not find a motel because they are family-owned businesses, and they don't want customers on the first day of Tet. It's a superstition. Or you might not get food. You can still find basic food. You won't die, but it may be difficult. And I recommend that you find, if you're traveling during the first 3 days of Tet or the Vietnamese New Year, you should try to stop at a motel by 4 p.m. because depending on which road you are, if you pass 4 p.m., who knows how long it's going to take until you find another hotel. So if you see a hotel by 4 p.m., stop there. Unless you want to drive in the dark, which I never do. My rule is before 6 p.m. I have to check in.
Yeah, you don't want to be, especially with trucks on the road and if you're on a bike. You did mention about the type of bike that you should have, and I think that's really important. So can you explain what bike you should have and why should you not get a Honda Cub 50cc?
So a Honda Cub 50cc, that's quite small. For one light person might be okay, because you might have to go uphill, so that won't get you there.
So I have a friend who I won't name, who drove from Saigon to Phan Thiet on a 50cc with 2 adults and a child.
Oh my God.
I know.
You can definitely do it. Also from here to Phan Thiet, it's from Ho Chi Minh City to Phan Thiet, it's kind of flat, so that's okay. But yeah, I mean, the bike will go and then inertia will still take you, but it's also hard to stop, to be honest. Mass, right? Basic physics, the heavier the bike, the harder it will be to stop. So I don't know. I wouldn't do it.
So the reason I'm bringing that up, you don't need a license if you have a bike that's 50cc or under. So a Honda Cub, it's a really nice bike. Like my wife used to have one. You get some of them that have been done up, and it's a really cool little bike, and it's great for getting about the city. But I would never ever take it outside the city or more than like just to the local shops. 50cc, I know nothing about bikes, but it's a small engine, so it goes pretty slow, doesn't have much power. I would not recommend going on a family trip to Phan Thiet on it. So based on that though, tell me about what bike do you drive? Do you recommend for tourists? And a bit more about the licensing laws and what people coming to Vietnam, what do they need or what do they need to do?
So I'm a big fan of motorcycling. I'm not a big fan of power or speed. So many people think that because I have this channel or because I ride a lot, I must go fast and I must be breaking the law and I must have a lot of cc's. My bike is a 125, which is enough for one person. It's a light bike. I wouldn't mind more cc's, but I just bought this one because it has a very old design. Although I bought it new, it copies the design of from 50 years ago or something. So it's an SYM Husky 125cc and it's Taiwanese, yeah. Not the most reliable, but it's fine because I love the way it looks. I just love its shape. That's why I bought it. And right, so I do not recommend getting that bike. What I do recommend, yeah, I mean, I literally bought it for the design, but what I do recommend is to get a common bike. So like in a common model, in case you have a problem, you'll always find someone who can fix it. So that would be a Honda Wave.
That's what I have.
Right?
So I got my Honda Wave, well, I've been here 8 years, 6 years ago, and it has been a dream. I had a Yamaha Novo before that because every person that visits Vietnam, every backpacker, because I came as a backpacker, gets a Yamaha Novo. It's the cheapest one. You pay for what you get. It broke down on a weekly basis. It was just absolutely, there's nothing worse than just being on the road and your bike just dies because you're like, what do I do now? And then I got a Honda Wave. We ended up getting 2 Honda Waves. So my wife had one and I had one. We just sold her bike after, I think we'd had it 5 or 6 years. We sold it for less than $1 million than we bought it 5 years ago. The Honda Wave, they rarely break. Mine has never broken down. It's needed some work, it's had to, I think I've had a new clutch, some new tires, things like this to just keep it updated, but it's never broken down. And I think it's held its value as well. And the parts is the thing as well, because Honda is so common here. And when we've looked on the road, I remember when we bought it, we were on the road just looking at everybody's bike and we're like, every second bike is a Honda. So it tells you something, and then it does make it really easy to get the parts.
Right. Yeah. So let's say the biggest motorbike suppliers around here are Honda and Yamaha, but most people say that, and it's true that Yamaha parts are a bit more expensive, and plus Honda is more popular for sure. So I would recommend, anything that is from Honda and it's a semi-automatic, you'll find parts for it and you'll find someone to be able to help you even in the countryside. Again, you mentioned the Novo, which is, a bike that, I don't know, for some reason, all foreigners get when they just come here, right?
It's like a rite of passage. You come out the airport, here's a Yamaha Novo.
Right. So it's a good bike. The thing is that I have something against fully automatic bikes. So the Wave, as we know, is a semi-automatic, right? To me, fully automatic has a few disadvantages. So first, fully automatic bikes are much heavier. Then you do not really have the engine brake, or you cannot control the engine brake, shifting gear down, and that can be marvelous. It saved my skin a few times. So if in an emergency, for people who don't know, maybe if you use the engine brake, that can never fail. So even if both your brakes, front wheel and back wheel, fail, the engine brake will never fail. And I love that on a semi-automatic. And then, again, if you have a high speed and you really want to stop, if you just slam the brakes, you're probably going to lose control and fall. Let's say if you're over 50. With the engine brake, that doesn't really happen. You might make a funny sound, but you might go straight still. Yeah, so I'm kind of against fully automatics, especially if you're going for a bike on a road trip. The wheels are smaller usually on a fully automatic, which also affects balance, I think, and how stable you are, right? Yeah, I think Wave is the way, or something similar, but from Honda, right?
No, I absolutely love the Honda Wave, but we have just changed to a new bike, and I want to hear your opinion on this. We got an electric bike.
Never tried one, but
you haven't tried one?
How is it, actually?
That's
I want to ask you, can we change roles now?
Yeah, sure, we'll change. So we just got the DAP bike, which is a Vietnamese made brand.
I know it, yeah.
You know that one? So not the VinFast electric bikes, and we absolutely love it, because they brought out a brand called totally forgotten the name of it now, but it's based on the Triumph bike, so it looks like a Triumph. It's like a kind of road bike. and it just looks really cool, but it's electric. I did a test drive of it. Goes really fast, up to 90 kilometers an hour. I mean, I stuck to the speed limit. Yeah, for sure. And it's just really nice. And so I'd been wanting it for a while, but we were more going to buy it for my wife because she has to travel every day for work and I work from home. And as we were about to buy, I was like, right, we're going to buy it. And now we look back and laugh because it would have been so impractical for her, like traveling to work and back. It's not a practical bike at all. There's like no storage space on it. And just as we were about to buy it, because I wanted it, even though I would barely use it, they released a new model called the Quantum. And the Quantum was more of a like everyday bike. So it's 40 litres capacity storage because it's no engine. Oh, not no engine, no gas, no fuel. Can go up to 90 kilometers again, got really fast. And so we went and did a couple of test drives and we got that. And I think she loves it. She uses it every day. I use it anytime I get a chance. It's a little bit noisier than we'd have liked because you think of an electric bike being like silent and there's a kind of like a whirring noise. So, and then someone else had the other model, which I'm still forgetting the name of, but they said that this model is a little bit noisier. But we've taken it a little bit out the city, not too far. It was all roads, but it's powerful enough to do a decent trip on. You can get up to 180 kilometers on the battery.
That sounds nice. Yeah, when you mentioned electric, I was like, the first thing I was thinking, okay, he's gonna ask me what I think about it, and I'm gonna say I don't like silence when it's about traffic in Vietnam because it's dangerous. But then you said that it's inconvenient, that it's a bit noisy. Actually, well, in my opinion, I think I like a bit of noise because you need to be heard. That's the thing in Vietnam. When we think about Western countries, traffic lights, everything, rules, everything, most people respect them and stuff. But it's not only Vietnam, many countries in this world, like, I don't know, Asia, maybe some, I don't know, South America, whatever. But it's not the same. I want to be heard because it's my safety. So, yeah.
No, I'm laughing because that's so funny you say that. Do you know the amount of times I've said to my wife, we're going to kill somebody because they're not going to hear us coming? Because in Vietnam, like they say, they're used to being the sound of bikes. And even then, sometimes I'll be on my other bike and they'll still walk in front of you. And you're like, how did you not just hear me coming? And then you've just walked in front of me. So that's why I say to her, like, we're going to end up killing somebody because they already walk in front of bikes that make noise. They're never going to hear us. So it does make us more cautious. Like, I am aware of the fact that, I need to give a little honk and they may not hear me.
Right. Yeah. And the other, just because we're on this topic now, like the other thing I don't like, some people get like they change the exhaust to make a lot of noise. No, that's annoying. I think that's not civilized and that's rude. The bike is not even that big. They just change the exhaust to make noise. Now, that's, of course, it's super safe for you because everybody can hear you, but it's also very annoying for the rest of the population. So I don't like that either. I don't like total silence, like the electric ones, like the, VinFast or others. They make no noise, yeah? I think, somewhere in between. A little bit of noise, like mine. Mine was super silent when I bought it, so I adjusted the exhaust, but I didn't change it. And it makes some noise that I'm there, but it doesn't annoy any neighbor in the morning when I start the bike or I ride out of my alley, right?
Well, I think that brings us on nicely to traffic safety then. So tell us about traffic safety in Vietnam because people are kind of shocked that there is traffic safety here, I guess.
Right. I believe, like, people have asked me, like, how do you feel when you get in traffic in Vietnam? And to be honest, without showing off, I feel totally fine. I'm used to it. Also, the earlier you learn something, the less afraid of it you are, right? Let's say if it's a dangerous sport or something. So I'm not afraid at all. I'm aware of the dangers, but I'm not worried, However, if you're coming to Vietnam and you're, let's say, not new to bikes, but it doesn't really matter. What you learned about bikes back home is different. It does, you know what I mean? So, like, if you are new to Vietnam, take it easy. Yeah, sometimes people are overconfident. For example, they come to Vietnam and then they just do Ha Giang when maybe they have never ridden a bike in their lives. Ha Giang is the most mountainous province of Vietnam, next to the border with China, and is very beautiful. It's maybe the most beautiful province if we talk about mountains in Vietnam. Right. And I've done it a few times, and the last time I was there around TED 2023, me and my friends who all have experience, nothing happened to us, but like we saw at least 3 foreigners with bruises in a matter of 2 hours because, you shouldn't go to Ha Giang. I just did Tam Dao 3 years moving to Vietnam, and then later I started, increase softly. Don't just go to the most dangerous one because it's beautiful. People also die there. So okay, that's natural dangers. I mean, the roads there are pretty steep and stuff, right? But then you have to be careful with trucks and buses because you can end up under them, and that's usually most of the time death. Simple. I'll just pull it straight. You can be in some crashes. I have been in easy one, usually just on my own. I fell. But I mean, falling off your bike is not that dangerous if you have a helmet and the speed is normally, I don't know, 50 or 40 in the city, and you're not gonna die. I mean, it's a bit difficult to die if it's just two bikes, if you have a helmet, but with the trucks and buses, it's a different story because especially with trucks, because they have that big opening between the front wheels and the back wheels, someone can knock you out and like knock you off, and you can fall and end up under those wheels. And yeah. And plus, that's about what you should do. Just stay away from them, keep distance. Yeah, don't get close to them. I never get close to a bus or a truck. I slow down if I have to. I don't care. You don't need to get there fast. In my opinion, when I ride my bike, I just, they use that a lot, maybe too much sometimes. It's like a cliche, the ride is the destination, but that's true. When I ride, I just want to ride. I don't really care if I don't really have a destination for that day. I'll get wherever I get on my way to the final destination. So yeah, do that. Don't think about time too much, and stay away from buses and truck and I wanted to say, and yeah, take smaller roads that are not so crowded.
And if you do come to the city, you mentioned it a couple of times there, wear a helmet. It is the biggest thing, and wear a proper helmet because sometimes they will give you one. So I'm like so staunch on helmets. So if I get on a grab bike, or I get the green bikes quite often as well because they're electric, I've cancelled a trip before because the helmet was unsafe. And you can actually put it in as a report, and one of the drop down boxes is the helmet is unsafe. I will refuse to get on, and often I will just bring my own helmet with me if I remember, because I'm like, I would rather bring my own than this little tiny piece of plastic. And the biggest thing that annoys me is they don't clip properly, or they're like really loose, and the drivers often get confused when I'm like, no, you need to tighten this, because it's like if the helmet is loose and you fall off the bike, the helmet is falling off as well. The helmet needs to be on tight. And I used to do stand-up comedy, and one of my favorite jokes that I still love to this day was it really annoys me when you see people wearing a helmet and they don't clip it. Do these people go home and have sex with a partner and just hold the condom? Right? It makes no sense. And you see people often with the helmet on and they've not clipped it. And it's like, this is pointless.
I have to say, that's a very good analogy. To be honest, that's the best analogy. And I just remember my first day in Vietnam. I swear to God, my first day in Vietnam, I came from the airport. I met some friends at a place outside, and that was those were my very first hours in Vietnam, and exactly that happened. Two bike crashed. It wasn't very serious, but the guy I think he was just unconscious. I don't think he died because there was no blood around, but exactly this. The helmet was like about 30 centimeters from his head. He was on the asphalt, passed out. Exactly that. He didn't clip it, and it didn't protect anything. The other 2 or 3 people involved, so there were 2 bikes or something, they were totally fine walking. He was not walking. I think he made it, but he got to hospital.
It could be the difference between life and death, or a 100% hospital stay. So make sure you use a good helmet, make sure you clip it. The other tip I would give, when I first came here, my uncle sent me a story about a Scottish woman who I think maybe passed away, if I remember correctly. And what happened to her was she was wearing something that was flowing and it got caught in the chain. And because it was like her dress or something, it pulled her off the bike. And I do think she wasn't wearing a helmet. I do remember him saying, or I read the story and I was like, yes, she wasn't wearing a helmet. Like, I'm very militant about wearing a helmet, even for short trips. So just be careful with things like flowing. Make sure you wear a helmet. Any other safety tips for anyone visiting Vietnam?
You gotta know your bike. Most people visiting, for sure, most of them rent one, others buy and then resell it. But either way, it's a new bike for you. Try the bike a little. Don't just go on the highway right after you rent it. You need to check the brakes, the chain, some things like that. The brakes are essential, right?
Brakes are essential. I've rented
everybody
bikes
can start a bike, but how do you stop it? I also want to say, yeah, like people, when people ask me, like, what tips would you give? The speed that you're at always seems, how to say, less dangerous than it actually is. Because I remember when I first fell, it was raining and I didn't have much experience. Nothing happened, 50 an hour, maybe 40, 50 an hour, and I got some bruises. That's it. It hurt because I had no idea how to fall even. Then you get some instincts of how to land. But anyway, I didn't fall a lot. But so, yeah, and I was like, I remember I was thinking that, okay, I'm not going too fast. And it's not too fast, 40 to be honest. But imagine when you're going, you feel like it doesn't seem too fast because you are moving. But imagine a wall, sudden stop. That's fast. Even 40, if you hit the asphalt at 40, it's fast. So don't only think about how you start the bike, get the bike moving. How do you stop it? That should be on your mind.
We're talking about the speeds in Scotland in kind of residential areas, and mostly it's near schools, on the roads that schools are on. The speed limit is only 20 kilometers an hour for that exact reason, because 20 is not going to, much less likely to cause damage, right, for kid runs. But one of the things my wife loves the most is outside the school, or on that road, it will have 20, and then underneath it says 20's plenty. Every time we walk by one of those signs, she just laughs. She thinks it's amazing.
I think so. It's like a sort of funny way to remind people that you don't need to go that fast.
And
right?
It's very Scottish as well. I love it. Before we wrap up, can you just tell where should we go, what should we do, and how should we do it?
So if you're visiting Vietnam and you want to explore it by bike, I would say basically just stay away from all the major highways. If you really want to explore something that is not on every tour, you want to go off the beaten path, right? Just look at the map and don't take whatever says QL, which is National Highway. If you see DT, that's a provincial highway, that's probably good. It's going to take you to the undiscovered Vietnam.
That's good advice. I like that. Look out for DT. Well, thank you very much for tuning into this episode. I really hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you got a lot of good advice. If you do have any questions, then just get in touch. Make sure you check out Vietnam Rider on YouTube. That's at Mihai Vietnam Rider, and you can see Mihai's videos of him traveling all over Vietnam. Make sure you subscribe to that. And also make sure you subscribe, follow, turn on all the notifications for the Vietnam is Awesome podcast, and go to vietnamisawesome.com to book your next trip around Vietnam. Thank you very much for joining me today, Mihai. This has been incredible. I'm excited to go get on my Honda Wave and just drive down the road. Cheers.
Thank you. Goodbye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're like me, you may use your laptop at places where you have to use public Wi-Fi. This opens you up to digital snoopers. It's a massive problem. It can be your internet service provider, or you know who, looking at what you do online, or a cyber criminal trying to steal your bank passwords or credit card info, or even a hacker at the next table trying to steal your sensitive data. These days, it is vital that you keep your data safe. NordVPN keeps all of these snoopers away. It makes your internet activity private, protects you from accessing dangerous websites that are phishing for your data, and lets you enjoy your favorite content securely, even while away from home. And it's easy to use, even I could use it. I've actually been using NordVPN for years now here in Vietnam, and I'm excited to be an affiliate partner with them. I've used NordVPN to watch Netflix, BBC, Disney Plus with ease, and I also know that my information and data are safe from prying eyes, whoever they may be. Join now and you'll get 68% off and 3 months free when you go to my link, nordvpn.com/SMB. Just again, for those hard of hearing, nordvpn.com/SMB. The link is also in the show notes. I know nobody checks them out, but go check that out and you can get the link from wherever you are listening to this podcast. As an affiliate partner, it also means that I will get a small commission when you sign up, but at no extra cost to you. So not only will you be getting a great deal through 7 Million Bikes, you get a great VPN and you'll be supporting 7 Million Bikes podcast. Stay safe online and enjoy the shows you love. Any questions, just let me know. You know how to get in touch with me. And thanks for listening to this show. Cheers.